Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin. We are continuing our lessons of Ilm al-Akhlaq, or science of Islamic morality, or a science of morality or ethics. And we are going to start talking about the vices and virtues and their cures, which are related to the specific faculties that I mentioned. I mentioned that there are four major faculties that are discussed in the science of akhlaq that are within the human soul. First is the faculty of aqliya, the intellectual faculty. The second is the faculty of ghadabiyya, the anger faculty. The third is the faculty of shahwiya, the food and drink and sexual appetitive and desires. That kind of that faculty that deals with that. Then the fourth is the faculty of wahmiya, the imaginative faculty. So today we're going to start going into the topics related to the maladies, the sicknesses, or the illnesses of Guhwa al-Aqliya, of the faculty of intellect. So this potential in a human being is very, very important. Very important. So we cannot let this potential become sick. It is a very, very important potential within the human soul by which human progresses and moves towards felicity. So the first vice that we are going to talk about here is the vice which is when we have that faculty of akliya in its excess. I said before that imagine you have these faculties that they are like a scale, and if one side is up too high, that is called its excess. That is a vice. If the side that's down too low is its negligence, that is a vice as well. When they equal out and they're balanced, that is virtue, called the golden mean. So the excess of this faculty of intellect is called al-jarbaza. Al-jarbaza is the excess which leads the person to deviate. It leads the person to deviation in thought. They deviate in thought from the correct line and the correct limits of aql. So this jarbaza is when the person has a vice which leads the person to deviation in thought from the correct line of intellect and the limits of intellect. This is one of the vices related to the potential of aqliya. This is one of the vices related to the potential of aqliya. Here, when the human soul is sick with this malady, this illness, it becomes immersed in meticulous examination. It becomes drowned in meticulousness. Hence, it deviates from the goals of intellect. And when a person gets into this situation, it takes him or her more and more away from understanding the reality. And it can even lead to the denial of that reality. One may even become, due to this vice and their bad deeds, of course, their bad directions, taking bad actions, one may become like a sophist. A sophist in the Greek times was these people who would argue anything for their case. So they didn't have sound reasoning to their arguments. They didn't have sound reasoning to their beliefs. Or one may be weighed down, bogged down into doubt and waswasa. They may become one who is excessive doubtful, or one who is waswasa, one who is immersed, drowned in waswasa, which is notably observed. You could notably observe kathir shak and waswasi person. You can notably observe these people amongst in their observance of religious rulings. When you may observe them in religious rules and their observances. So when a person sometimes gets afflicted with this illness, and then they are kathir shak, and then we have special rules for them in the fiqh. They become doubtful about things more than the normal kind of doubt, or they become waswasi about things. So this vice is a very dangerous vice. This vice of al-jarbaza is a very dangerous vice. Now, how to cure this disease? If a person has this disease in their soul, they have gotten this disease of jarbaza, how should a person go about curing themselves? And above all, we must remember, we must indeed seek Allah's assistance and help. Allah has created us with abilities to do certain things and to understand certain things and to make choices in certain things. But we are really poor. We are very needy. We are more needy than we realize. Every single thing about us is depending on Allah, is needing Allah. So we need to make dua. We need to make dua to Allah. Dua is an ibadat. So how to cure this disease? The first thing that we can do is this person must first become aware. He must realize, understand how dangerous this disease actually is. And this afflicted person, he or she must ponder upon the fact and think about it. They must consider the benefits of not being in this condition, like serving Allah without this doubt, serving Allah without this waswasa, believing in Allah without this waswasa. So you could consider the benefits of not being in this condition, like serving Allah as He has commanded. When it comes to ibadat, acts of worship, or understanding the realities of things in a proper manner, understanding what the reality of the situation is, what the reality of the things are. These are benefits to being pulled out of this vice of jarbaza. These are benefits to not being in the condition of al-jarbaza. After this, one should force themselves. They must make themselves do. They must make themselves do in their minds a kind of mental action. They must make their minds keep within the limits of moderation, the golden mean of intellectual abilities, which we'll talk about a little later. So they must bring themselves down to this proper function of intellectual abilities. They must keep themselves in this frame. So here, one uses common sense and thinking. A person here uses common sense and thinking. And also they use the practice and the judgment of uqala, of rational people. These are the criteria in which a person can employ to bring themselves down to the out of this meticulous, excessive deviation in the intellectual abilities. So they could use common sense and thinking. and the practice and judgment of rational people, of Akhlaaq, as their criteria. Hence, at this junction, a person should judge their own thinking and judgment. So a person should go and they should look at their own thinking and judgments, and they should judge themselves. They should judge their own thinking and their own judgments. Are these thinkings, these thoughts, or these judgments, are they in line within the limits of intellect, or do they go beyond? And this person should continue to enforce on themselves this practice of judging themselves and bringing themselves back until the intellectual potential, al-quwwa al-aqliya, is in its moderation, is in its virtue, is in its golden mean. And after this, one must not let guard completely down. So one must not let guard completely down. They must be on guard to these types of things. So here, a person can use this method to cure themselves from this disease of jarbaz. Now, since we mentioned the kathir shak and the waswasi person, the fiqh rules about that help, fiqh rules that help a person, some of the fiqh rules about these types of people that may help a person who is excessively doubting are very important to be followed. So we must follow these fiqh rules in order to break away from these excessive doubts. So the fiqh rules are as follows. The excessively doubting person, according to the fiqh, is a person who doubts in an action or in multiple actions more than the normal amount of doubting. The criteria here is that the person doubts once in every 3 salah. That is called shaksul kathir. That is what's called shaksul kathir according to in the fiqh lessons that we taught. The waswasi person is the one who is overwhelmed by doubts. He's overwhelmed by doubts until it is a psychological problem. The doubts control the person's mind, and they cannot be certain of anything. Even a certain thing they cannot be certain of. They have these excessive doubts that have overwhelmed their mind until it became a psychological problem. That's a waswasi person. So the kathir shak person and the waswasi person, they may look similar, but they're slightly different. The ruling for both types of people over here, the kathir shak and the waswasi person, is that they act in accordance with their acts being correct and valid. So they ignore the doubt. As example, if a person is having excessive doubts in the number of rakats, what they should do is they should consider they have done the higher number, unless the higher number invalidated the salah, in which case they should accept the lower number of rakats to solve the doubt. The over-doubting person, shaksul kathir, should not comply with their doubts, even to comply with the doubt is a sin. So an over-doubting person should not comply with their doubts. Complying to their doubts becomes haram on them, becomes a sin. They should not follow their doubts. So it becomes a sin to follow the doubt. And you could check your margin and see what he says in this area. Although the prayer will be sahih, the prayer would be correct, right? But even if they followed such doubt, but it would be accounted as a sin on them. But check your margin. If one doubts if they are excessive doubter, if a person doubted whether they are shaksul kathir or not, they should consider themselves as not. If you don't know you're shaksul kathir, then you're not shaksul kathir. But if he was a shaksul kathir person, he was an excessive doubtful person, then he doubts if the state had been removed, like he was cured from it or not, and he's shaki about it. He's doubt upon the doubtfulness of himself. Here from him, here he uses the general rule of istishab, so he brings the previous certitude over to say that he is still in doubt and will consider himself as one being shaksul kathir. So those are some of the fiqh rulings about the shaksul kathir person, the excessively doubtful person. So this is a big disease. This jarbaza and shaksul kathir and waswasi person affects a person's lives and affects many people's lives. So let's look at a hadith, a narration mentioned in Kitab al-Kafi. Now, Kitab al-Kafi is compiled by Sheikh Kulaini. So obviously the first narrator of this hadith will be Muhammad ibn Yaqub Ridwan Allahi alayhi, Muhammad ibn Yaqub al-Kulaini. This is Sheikh Kulaini. He reported from Muhammad ibn Yahya, from Ahmad ibn Muhammad, from Ibn Mahbub, from Abdullah ibn Sinan. Abdullah ibn Sinan is a trustworthy companion of Imam alayhi salam, of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So Abdullah ibn Sinan, he said, I mentioned to Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah alayhi salam is Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So this Abdullah ibn Sinan, first, don't confuse him with Muhammad ibn Sinan. They're two different people. Two different people. Abdullah ibn Sinan is trustworthy. So Abdullah ibn Sinan, he said that I mentioned to Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, said a man who was troubled with waswasa in his wudu. So he asked him about a man who was troubled with waswasa in his wudu and his salah. So he's asked him about a man who was troubled by waswasa in his wudu and salah, adding that he is an intelligent. He's an intelligent man. So this guy is so he's saying, Abdullah ibn Sinan says there's this guy who has this problem and he is a man of intelligence. So Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, he said, what kind of aql, what kind of intelligence has he when he obeys shaitan? What kind of aql does he? Wahuwa yuti'u ash-shaitan. What kind of intellect? What kind of intellect when he obeys shaitan? And he's obeying shaitan. How is that intellectual, right? So Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, what kind of intellect has he when he obeys shaitan? And he obeys shaitan. So Abdullah ibn Sinan, he said, how does he obey shaitan? Kaifa yuti'u ash-shaitan? How does this guy obey shaitan? Imam alayhi salam said, ask him regarding its cause, and he will tell you it is amali ash-shaitan. Is amali shaitan. Is the work of shaitan. So, see, intellect points us to Allah. Intellect tells us to obey Allah. Intellect is in line with obeying Allah and recognizing Allah. So here, when a person is waswasi, the shaitan has waswased on them. This person is not obeying Allah by following such waswas. This person is obeying shaitan. the intellect directs us towards Allah. And this guy, he's obeying his waswasa. How could he be an intelligent person when he obeys shaitan? So, as we stated before, we can imagine this quwwah, this faculty, as a scale, which has one side in excess and one side in neglect. Both these are vices. This neglect and this excess are vices. Whereas perfect balance between both sides is virtue. That's the golden mean. The above case was when the quwwah al-aqliya was in excess. That's the jarbaza person. So now let us examine when the faculty of intellect is in neglect. Here, when the faculty of intellect is in neglect, we have the vice of jahl basit, simple ignorance. You may remember in ilm mantiq, we had jahl basit and jahl murakkab, compound ignorance and simple ignorance. So simple ignorance, this is present in the human soul when they lack knowledge and learning. Yet this person is aware that they do not know. So simple ignorance. I know I don't know, and I lack the education, the knowledge, the learning about it. So we have the vice of jahl basit and simple ignorance, and this is present in the human soul when they lack knowledge and learning. Yet this person is aware that they do not know. Then we have jahl murakkab. This is compound ignorance. This is when one lacks knowledge but is not realizing his or her ignorance. They think they actually know. Hence they consider themselves as being knowledgeable about it. But they really, in reality, they don't know about it. So the treatment here for jahl basit is much easier than jahl murakkab. If we want to treat the simple ignorance, it's much easier than the compound ignorance. Hence, to cure the malady of simple ignorance, one must learn about and consider the ugly and evil consequences of ignorance. So we could look at this verse of the Holy Quran. Kul hal yastawi alladhina ya'lamuna wa alladhina la ya'lamun. Innama tadhakkaru ulul bab. Say, are those who know and those who do not know alike? Are they equal? Hal yastawi alladhina ya'lamuna wa alladhina la ya'lamuna. Are those who know and do not know, are they alike? Are they equal? Innama yatadhakkaru ulul bab. Only men of understanding are mindful. This ulul bab is people of intellect. It means like the kernel inside the walnut, literally. But anyways, it means the people who are akli type people. So this is Surah 39, part of the ayat of Surah 9, part of the ayat of ayat 9. So that's the first thing. You look at the ugly and evil consequences of staying ignorant. The second thing that can be done is they should understand that mankind has distinction over other animals due to intellectual ability and knowledge and learning. Therefore, such a person should take as noteworthy the importance of seeking knowledge and the importance of learning. The result of such contemplation should produce the desire to learn in a person. This should ignite the desire to learn. And hence he must pursue the desire with the effort and not allow any doubt about it in his mind to creep in. He must, or her mind, they must pursue the seeking of knowledge. We have this verse, Surah 35, ayat 28. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ وَالدَّوَابِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ كَذَلِكَ إِنَّ يَشَاءَ اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ غَفُورٌ. And men and beasts and cattle of various species, of it likewise, or this differing colors like that. Likewise, transinterpretation of it, mind you, the Arabic is better. Those of his servants only who are possessed of knowledge fear Allah. Innama yasha Allah min ibadihi ulama'u. Inna Allah azizun ghafur. Certainly, verily, Allah is mighty and forgiving. Surah 35, ayat 28. Then we have a hadith from Shaykh Kulaini, from Muhammad ibn Yahya. He has narrated from Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, from Hassan ibn Mahbub, from Ali ibn Riyab, from Abu Ubaidah al-Hadai, from Abu Ja'far alayhi salam. Abu Ja'far is Imam Bakr alayhi salam, who has said the following: the angels of mercy, the angels of Rahmah, and the angels of Adab. Translation in the text, but it's the angels of Rahmah and the angels of Adab. So the angels of punishment and the angels of mercy, the angels of mercy and the angels of punishment. Knowledge. Such people will be held responsible for their sins. Such people will be held responsible for the sins of all those who have followed such fatwas. Knowledge is very important. And knowing is better than not knowing. Not knowing is a big hurdle. It's a big problem. It's a big hurdle in the way of felicity and success. Not knowing is a big hurdle to reaching the purpose of human creation. It's a big hurdle to not realizing Allah. It's a big hurdle to reaching realization of Allah the Exalted. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَانَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I have not created the jinn and the man except that they should worship me. Surah 51, ayat 56. فَأْلَمْ, then know. Surah 47, ayat 19. فَأْلَمْ, then know. أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مُتَقَلَّبَكُمْ وَمَثْوَاكُمْ. It's a command to know. فَأْلَمْ, know. So then know that there is no God except Allah, and ask protection and ask forgiveness for your sins and for the believing men and the believing women. And Allah knows the place of your returning and the place of your abiding. Since we are commanded to worship Allah and to serve Allah and to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is now a fear. There is now a fear of harm in not going to know, in not knowing these things. So there's a fear of harm in not doing those things, in not serving Allah and worshiping Allah the way Allah requires us to do. Serving and worshiping Allah requires us to know what the Master, the Mawla, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do to serve Him. So not knowing is therefore harmful, and knowing is beneficial and required. So knowing is better than not knowing. It's very, very important. So that is everything for this lesson. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.